Hello. This is a video about a man who helped kill somebody. Not with a gun, not with a knife, not with a drone strike or a car bomb or a lapel mic filled with petant, but with a keyboard and a phone and 20 years of practice learning exactly how much pressure to apply to a person who's already drowning before they stop coming back up. His name is Bernard Robert Goldsmith. He runs an account called UAE Falconry and Finance. He went by Martin Random online. He used to be a lawyer. He lives in Davis, California, and he has, in writing, outlined his plan to use his personal relationship with a sitting judge to have me imprisoned under false pretenses for supposedly making terroristic threats, because I started asking questions about him and about his past. This is also a story about Aubrey Caudle, better known as Curtainer, a man who has spent 20 years building a reputation as a countercultural hero while running operations that, depending on who you ask, either caught predators or protected them. These men know each other. They've collaborated, and they have collectively left a trail of dead and broken people behind them. I am going to tell you about that trail. As with everything I do, all claims made in this video are either directly sourced and cited or clearly flagged as my opinion. I've been extremely careful about this for reasons that will become obvious shortly. The people I am discussing have a demonstrated pattern of using defamation law as a weapon. I am not going to hand them that weapon. Let's begin. Actually, before I do that though, I need to explain the concept of quote-unquote suicide trolling. And the best way to do that is to just read you this article from the Bestpoint Internet Institute. In military applications, simple trolling has its limits. When regular trolling is not enough to silence witnesses, whistleblowers, and personal enemies, one can always escalate to suicide trolling tactics to silence them forever. Suicide trolling, to its practitioners, is a complex and controversial art which encompasses a wide variety of life ruination tactics. As the name implies, it is a type of trolling where the intention is to get the target to kill themselves, or at the very least, go away for a very long time. This is accomplished by systematically destroying the psyche, spirit, and soul of the target. As this institute's chief mission is one of harm reduction, I strongly advise all of our visitors to refrain from suicide trolling. We are just here to have fun and learn about the threats we have to defend against on the internet. The purpose of this guide is to expose the depravity of the suicide troller. We are not here to kill people. How it is done. Suicide trolling is not about simply baiting or encouraging the target to kill themselves. That's just normal lowbrow trolling. In fact, experienced suicide trolls will rarely outright tell the target to commit suicide, as that action can be used as evidence of intent in a court of law. Rather, it is a systematic demolition of the target's life, designed to induce the feelings of helplessness and despair which lead to suicide. Usually, it is plotted out in advance due to the complexities and logistics involved in carrying it out. This involves hitting the target from multiple angles, sometimes over the course of many months, or even years. A comprehensive suicide trolling campaign will usually focus on these areas. 1. Public image and reputation. The cornerstone of a traditional suicide trolling campaign involves going after the person's reputation and public image. This is done by things like spreading rumors, or leaving negative reviews on social media. Call-in radio shows and community bulletin boards may also be used to springboard rumors. Some suicide trolls go as far as to even purchase a domain name of the target's name and build entire websites designed to ruin their image. The target's own words can even be used against them, especially if you can twist a horrifying interpretation out of them by taking them out of context. The damage caused by these tactics can all be amplified by doxing and bot farms. This layer of trolling will oftentimes serve as the foundation on which the following layers build. 2. Career and financial stability. As many people are not fazed by insults and gossip, the suicide troll will take things further and start to actively dismantle the target's life. The first thing to sabotage is usually the target's career. Most people do this by simply contacting the target's boss and/or coworkers to further spread the rumors conjured in the reputation layer. If the target's boss or coworkers are not fazed, or the target otherwise still has their job, then the employer itself will usually endure a wave of reputation assaults. Bad reviews may be left all over the employer's social media pages, and boycotts may be called for. Complaints may get sent to the Better Business Bureau, city permit boards, and law enforcement. The company website may get hacked or DDoS'd. If the employer still doesn't budge, then the suicide trollers will move to a further degree away from the initial target and go after the employer's other service providers. In the media industry, this involves going after advertisers. Assaults on financial stability do not always involve the target's employer. Take the car, for example. Slashing tires or pouring sugar in the gas tank is not only a pricey fix, but the cost of the damage increases exponentially as the target is forced to miss work. Some tactics, like lawfare, hit the wallet directly as the target is forced to pay for lawyers and court fees. By going after the target's ability to support themselves, the suicide trolls can trigger an endless spiral of instability from which many never recover. 3. Personal support networks. A job, when it comes right down to it, is a type of support network. When a target is cost their job, other support networks, friends, family, religious groups, community organizations, message boards, etc., will be who the target falls back on. Gossip, concern trolling, mirroring, and triangulation are oftentimes all it takes to make these structures crumble away. Once the target is pushed into unemployment, those who take on the primary financial burden of supporting the target will be targeted themselves once their identities are known. 4. Mental health and the psyche. Once the target's life has begun to crumble around them, the suicide troller is in a position to upend the psyche. Getting to this point, especially with competent targets, is no easy task, which is why isolation is the name of the game. Some people don't have to be isolated with the above steps, but it certainly speeds up the process either way. As soon as the target feels alone in their plight, helplessness sets in, and this is when the suicide trolls go for the throat. Tactics at this point will sometimes get really sadistic. Messages and threats may be left in places telling the victim how this is all their fault and it's never going to end. The victim may come home one day and find all their belongings inexplicably rearranged in careful, deliberate ways. Important personal mementos and family heirlooms may be stolen at this stage, and sometimes even returned damaged or desecrated. The victim's pets, if they have any, may even be killed at this stage. When effectively combined with other tactics, this layer of trolling is usually what induces the final killing stroke. Ethical and legal considerations. Trolling people to death brings many legal liabilities. In some jurisdictions, it is considered a form of assault. If the victim does do themselves in, and evidence links that suicide to a group of trolls, it can be prosecuted as a murder or manslaughter case. On top of that, it can also invite vigilante retaliation and trigger an endless cycle of bloodshed and abuse. There are also many ethical considerations, the primary one being, would Jesus approve of me doing this? Or, do you really want to spend the rest of your life with this on your conscience? Suicide trolling victims. And now, a moment of silence for the following suicide trolling victims. Richard Lowtax Kiyonka, trolled to death by furries and Bernie Goldsmith. Flesh Simulator may very well be trolled to death by federal informants if law enforcement does not intervene and save his life. Rest eternal grant to them, O Lord, and may their souls, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. May light perpetual shine upon them. Amen. Relative to his impact, Bernard Goldsmith is not a household name. That's by design. He maintains a deliberately low profile across most platforms, but is prolifically active under various pseudonyms. He's been active for years, nearly 20 to my recollection, under the handle Martin Random, and more recently under the account UAE Falconry and Finance, or @Falconry Finance, an account that I want you to keep in mind throughout this video, because we will be returning to it repeatedly. Just know that anything posted there should be treated the way you'd treat a statement from someone who's already been caught lying to you multiple times. We'll get into the specifics of why shortly. But let's take a little bit of a look at his career. Goldsmith worked at Sullivan and Cromwell. Now, for those of you who don't know, Sullivan and Cromwell is one of the oldest, most politically connected, white shoe, blue-blooded law firms in the United States. John Foster Dulles, the CIA director, Allen Dulles' brother, the Secretary of State, was a partner. The firm has historically had deep ties to the Democratic Party infrastructure. That connection to the Democratic Party is not incidental. Here's a photograph. I want to be careful here because I am not making the claim that the Democratic Party knows who Bernard Goldsmith is. They do. But what I am saying is that Goldsmith has cultivated relationships in proximity to power that insulate him. That's the game. That's always the game. Now, before we talk about what Goldsmith does, we need to talk about where he comes from. If you were online in the early 2000s, you know something awful. If you weren't, here's the 30-second version. It was a forum. It was enormously influential. It was a breeding ground for a significant portion of internet culture as we know it today. Memes, trolling as a concept, entire aesthetic movements, Grover House. A lot of that has something awful somewhere in its family tree. It also had a dark side. See, there is a spin-off IRC channel called Raspberry Heaven. It was named after a slice of life anime about high schoolers. Sets the tone. This wound up evolving into a hacker collective of sorts. Bernie, aka Martin Random, and Curtainer were both members of this. Raspberry Heaven is notable for actually being the creators of 4chan. Moot, aka Christopher Poole, didn't do it on his own, despite, popular belief. He was a member of Raspberry Heaven, but the rest of the members decided to let, the underage Christopher Poole take credit so that he could take the fall without getting tried as an adult. Now, Bernie's role in this was as unofficial legal counsel, as this was taking place while he was in law school. This is the basis for his repeated claim of being the true creator of 4chan. But why would they need an underage fall guy, is the question. Well, because, according to Bernie, for the first 4 months of the site, and according to anyone who was on the site, all of it, they were distributing lolicon in exchange for web hosting. For those unfamiliar, lolicon refers to sexualized animated depictions of minors, and while its legal status is complicated and jurisdiction dependent, its presence on a platform tells you something about the culture that platform was willing to tolerate. Now, Something Awful was run by a man named Richard Lowtax Kionka. We will come back to Lowtax. That name is load-bearing. There's also a thread of connection between Something Awful, 4chan's founder Christopher Poole, better known as Moot, and through several degrees of separation, Jeffrey Epstein's network, but that's whatever. I don't care about that right now. Now, I want to be precise here. I'm not claiming Moot was aware of or involved in anything criminal. What I am saying, though, is that the social graph of early internet culture, particularly around the more transgressive corners of it, contains some names that appear later in contexts that are significantly less funny than posting frog pictures. One of those names is Aubrey Caudle. There is a drawing representing the members of Raspberry Heaven. He's drawn here, directly next to Martin Random. Martin Random is a little anime girl, a little girl. Even by lolicon hacker collective standards, little. Now, Aubrey Caudle, known as Curtainer, describes himself as the founder of Anonymous. This requires some unpacking. There are two positions one can take on Anonymous. The first being that Anonymous, as a concept, did not have founders. It emerged organically from 4chan's /B board as a collective identity, a mask anyone could wear. Claiming to have founded it is a bit like claiming to have founded the concept of graffiti. The second position on Anonymous was that Anonymous did have founders, and those founders were just Raspberry Heaven. And I am more inclined to lean towards this one, where, Anonymous as a social movement didn't really have a founder, but Anonymous, the kind of, the old school one, the internet hate machine, everyone has to be in favor of lolicon, or else, you're closed-minded. Like the relationship to lolicon stuff, and I hate to keep saying this because it's going to get this video demonetized. The relationship to it is something that is hard to explain the depth of. It wasn't enough that it was just allowed on the site. It was, you had to be glad that it was on the site. You didn't have to jerk off to it. You had to be so free speech that you were in favor of anime child porn. Regardless, however, Caudle was unquestionably present at the formation of several of its early organized operations, and has cultivated a public persona built heavily on that association. He also founded 420chan. What's more interesting than the founding claim, though, is what Caudle was doing while he was wearing this hacker hero costume. Caudle ran what he described as, quote, honeypot operations for the fucking feds, targeting child exploitation material online. The premise: set up infrastructure that predators would use, collect the evidence, and hand it to law enforcement. This is, in principle, a legitimate tactic used by actual law enforcement. The problem is, Caudle was not law enforcement. He was a civilian. He was just a guy. And the question of what happens to the material collected during a honeypot operation run by an unaccountable private individual, without judicial oversight, without chain of custody, without any of the procedural safeguards that exist for very good reasons, that question does not have a comfortable answer. He got caught running one, and they were like, okay, well, we're going to turn it into a honeypot. He's in jail right now, and whatever. What we do know is that Caudle has confirmed a working relationship with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, and has described cooperation with the FBI. I want you to hold that in your mind for the time being. A man who ran unmonitored honeypot operations involving CSAM, who is simultaneously an asset of a foreign intelligence service and a cooperating source for the FBI. Now I need to introduce you to the number 764. 764 is a violent extremist network. The FBI has designated it as such. It operates primarily through Discord, Telegram, and similar platforms, and its activities include the production and distribution of child sexual abuse material, the solicitation and coordination of real-world violence, and most relevantly for our purpose, the targeted psychological manipulation of vulnerable individuals towards self-harm and suicide. Basically, they, find kids on Roblox and manipulate and blackmail them into sending nudes and then sexploit them into self-harming, killing their pets, and killing themselves. In other words, it is an organized, satanic, suicide trolling operation with extra steps. And the steps are, nihilistic extremism. Basically, it's some of the worst shit I've ever read about. The connections between... independently documented 764's penetration of anonymous adjacent Discord servers. By extension, given what we will establish about Goldsmith's relationship with this man, the question of how far removed he is from that network is one that I think deserves to be asked loudly and in public. Back to the lawyer. Well, I guess actually technically back to Curtainer. He is currently in jail. For what? A probation violation, actually. How did he violate probation? Well, he was involved in something called Anon coin. Anon is a cryptocurrency. He was involved in promoting it, seemingly somewhat involved in its creation. Bernard Goldsmith is a business partner in it. Goldsmith, isn't in jail because of it, because he didn't have parole terms that prevented him from being involved in, whatever you'd like to call it, a meme coin. A Ponzi scheme. But given the way that the two of them interact, honestly, the history of their interaction, even just on Twitter, it's pretty clear that these two men know each other and know each other well. So to sum it up, a man with documented connections to 764 who ran unmonitored honeypot operations, who is a CSIS asset, his business partner in a cryptocurrency venture is a Sullivan and Cromwell lawyer with Democratic Party connections and a personal friendship with a sitting judge in Yolo County, California. This is not a coincidence. This is a network. Now, let's talk about the Odd Fellows. The International Order of Odd Fellows is a fraternal organization. That's not inherently sinister. Fraternal organizations are normal. What's interesting is when membership in a fraternal organization creates a personal relationship between a party to a lawsuit and the judge presiding over it, and a close personal relationship to the mentor of the judge presiding over it. I would like to show you something that Bernard Goldsmith sent me. Directly. In a DM. In his own words. Here are the words of Bernard Goldsmith. Here's my induction as guardian of the inner sanctuary at the Davis Oddfellows by Yolo County Chief Justice David Rosenberg. That's the man in the photograph. That is the mentor of the judge presiding over the case. That is Goldsmith. The judge presiding over the case is also a member of Oddfellows. Lucas Connor, at House of Leaves MD, aka HAARP, was sued by Goldsmith for defamation. In Yolo County, in a court presided over by the mentee of Chief Justice Rosenberg. Continuing to look through these messages, Goldsmith then sent a second photograph captioned, "Here's me organizing at Occupy," establishing, for the record, that he would like you to know he's one of the good guys, followed by this observation about his own biography. Anyway, I include picture evidence because taken all together, that biography looks like the ravings of a madman. He sent me the evidence, he captioned it himself, he called it the ravings of a madman. Bernard Goldsmith is a man so confident in his impunity that he will hand you the rope and watch you with a smile. I'm going to use the rope. Richard Lowtax Kiyonka founded something awful. He struggled publicly and privately with alcoholism, mental illness, and a deeply ugly divorce. He died on November 9th, 2021. The official cause of death was suicide. Now let's take a look at this post from the 20,000 plus post thread in the Westside Tyler Discord, dedicated solely to harassing and stalking me, Flesh Simulator and his lol cult. Now, in the words of someone describing Goldsmith to other members of that server, Bernie is also, apparently, the driver behind Lowtax getting trolled to death, aka getting him to kill himself. Goldsmith's response was, I'll accept this. I want to be extremely precise about how I characterize this because precision matters a lot here. What this shows, and I have this evidence, is that Goldsmith was in contact with Kiyonka in the period leading up to his death, and that Goldsmith's communications were not those of someone attempting to help a person in crisis. I will not speculate beyond what the evidence shows. Because I don't need to, the evidence is enough. Lowtax is not the only name on this list. The pattern, and it is a pattern, involves identifying individuals who are already vulnerable. People dealing with addiction, people dealing with mental illness, people who are isolated, people who have already been publicly humiliated or in the middle of some kind of personal catastrophe. And then pressure. Sustained, targeted, methodical pressure and gaslighting, Darvo tactics. Suicide trolling. From the Westside Tyler Discord, here's how participants in this harassment thread described their goal. They should be bullied until being online is not fun anymore. And here's what one member posted about me on May 19th, 2026, with a spoiler image attached in the middle of a discussion about what happens if Tom stops posting. My name's Tom. I think I murdered someone, Lamau. This is not trolling. Trolling is when you post a funny picture under someone's tweet. What this describes is a coordinated effort to push people who are already close to the edge over it. That has a name, and in several jurisdictions, including Missouri, Bernie, it has a legal definition. I should probably address the elephant in the room. My name is Thomas Gant. I go by Flesh Simulator online. I have been, for a couple months now, publicly critical of Bernard Goldsmith. Goldsmith has responded to this criticism in the way he responds to all criticism, by attempting to destroy the person doing the criticizing. The specific methodology in my case has involved a pattern of framing me publicly as a drug addict, in advance of, and I want to be very clear that this is my interpretation of the evidence, which I will now present to you, is staging or manufacturing an overdose. Sorry, it got very hot in here and I needed to turn on the AC, so you might hear a little bit of that in the audio. Too bad. I myself have a history of abuse and addiction to benzodiazepines. Now, I've been clean from benzodiazepines for 8 years as of this July. But, as part of his ongoing harassment campaign against me, in addition to publicly, repeatedly claiming that I relapsed and was a user of benzodiazepines still, that I was actively addicted, to both discredit me and also a surprise tool that he thought would help him later. In addition to that, there were a couple of people who had a, I would say, rather morbid habit, creating no fewer than 50 separate alt accounts for the sole purpose of trying to get me to relapse. Very nasty, very rude. Here's another interesting thing. When word got around that I had taken a drug test, a benzo test on the spot, the Westside Tyler server took notice. One of the participants in the harassment thread looked at the situation and noted out loud to the group, "Notice how it's not an alcohol test." Someone else in that room noticed the same thing that I noticed. The choice of test is specific. An alcohol test doesn't build an OD narrative. A drug test does. I am not a drug addict. I am also not suicidal. Due to my religious beliefs, I will never kill myself. I'm not starting over on New Game Minus. I'm stating this clearly and on the record in front of an audience because I've watched this playbook get run on other people, and I know how the next chapter is supposed to go. It is not going to go that way. Because here's what Bernard Goldsmith does not seem to have fully processed. I am not Lowtax. I'm not isolated. I'm not in crisis. I'm a person with a camera and a microphone and a very good memory and absolutely nothing left to lose by telling the truth about him in public. You will have to kill me personally. Good luck. If something happens to me, if I die under circumstances that are being described in advance as an overdose, if I'm institutionalized on the basis of manufactured evidence, if, I don't know, a restraining order is used to strip me of my firearms in the period immediately preceding any of the above, this video will tell you exactly where to start looking. Recently, one of the people behind the repeated attempts to get me to relapse, and part of the clique responsible for spamming AI-generated deepfake videos of me being tortured and killed, accidentally spilled the beans on Bernie's plan to file a restraining order for the express purpose of disarming me. Now, considering the fact that Bernie is in California, and I am in Maryland, and his goons spam deepfake videos of my violent death, as well as my home address, it's pretty clear what the goal of this might be. But he continued. He brought up Bernie's plan to then sue me civilly, and finally, to use these evidentiary proceedings as a lower risk, lower barrier way to frame me for terroristic threats. Remember that language. I called him out on this publicly. His response was, "Try to stop me." I am. See, Bernie lives in California. California has a process by which a temporary restraining order can be sought to compel the surrender of firearms. This process exists for legitimate reasons. It is also, like any legal mechanism, capable of being weaponized by someone with the right connections and sufficient motivation. Goldsmith has those connections. He said so himself. He told the Westside Tyler Discord server that he was, quote, more fetid up than flesh, a boast that lands differently when you understand that his business partner is a CSIS asset and his fraternal brother is the Chief Justice of the court that would hear any such petition. Now, let me tell you about Hal Turner. Hal Turner was a right-wing radio host who basically got turned on for being a federal informant. But here's the question. Was he? Because it turns out this is not the first time Goldsmith has done this. In his own words, in the Westside Tyler server, Goldsmith described what he did to Hal Turner. I wrote a fake letter between him and his FBI handler and released it so the white nationalists all decided he was compromised and kicked him off. I also took down Hal Turner. Sounds like, one or two additional things away from moral turpitude there, Bernie. He fabricated a document, he released it strategically, he destroyed someone's platform and reputation, and he bragged about it to an audience while actively running the same playbook on me. In the same session, he announced the next phase. Now is about the right time to drop a black flag op where we create a fake but plausible and extremely scandalous leak. From the same session. Also from Bernie. I want him to complain about being the victim to increasingly insane things. We should get into him the idea that we have exhumed and stolen the bones of his ancestor. Where have I heard that tactic before? He named the tactic Black Flag Operation. Fake, but plausible. He described the exact method he used on Hal Turner, announced he was deploying it again, and did all of this in writing. There's also this. Maoist landlord is taking out multiple fascist family members. That's my family. Maoist landlord, aka Noah Gabriel Strickler, is an account that Goldsmith has claimed to have trained. The account that doxed me and my family in March of 2026. Here's a fun fact. Despite the fact that Goldsmith claims that he first learned of this whole beef when I DM'd him, and he took credit for training Maoist, on March the 20th, that was not actually the first he had heard of this beef, because he was asking about this beef on March the 12th. In his personal little, Loby, left-wing, suicide troll, goon, account growth group chat, of which Noah was a member. How do I know this? How can I cite this? You'll have to take my word for it. I'm sorry, I can't tell you where I got that information. Or this screenshot of you doing it. Yeah, Bernie. Here's what Bernie had to say when I asked him why he was helping the person who just doxed my family. The Falcon tells it all. What can I say? He's my boy. I trained him. I set him loose. And he knows weakness. That's how I train him. He sees it everywhere in this world. No, I should do this in Bernie's voice. The Falcon tells it all. What can I say? He's my boy. I trained him. I set him loose, and he knows weakness. That's how I train him. He sees it everywhere in this world. Once they're loose, I've no responsibility. This is the internet. Bad things happen to the weak. They're caught and eaten. I was making him sound too cool. That is what Bernie sounds like. We have clips of him talking later in this video. He sounds like the rat that runs the bank in like a pre-1940s cartoon that has to have a disclaimer in the beginning of it.
This
No,
is
you're
tough,
not a
man.
lawyer.
I'm putting you in front of a judge. Yeah, I am a lawyer.
A judge that you
Buddy.
fucking know. From Oddfellows.
Well, that's your problem.
Oh, it's my problem? What? Why is that my problem? Is it going to be a
Because he'll
problem?
be dragged into Yolo County and subjected to their discretion, my friend. Like all of the
Why?
stuff that you've been saying.
Wouldn't a judge be, completely unbiased? Why is that any worse than any other county?
Look, if you have a problem with the judges that I'll be bringing your case before, you
You're
can
acting
always
like you're
complain.
Kaiser Soze.
Yeah, that's because I am Kaiser Soze.
20-year-old. Are you an attorney again yet? Like, actually, will you say that you're an attorney? Are you an attorney?
I need you to calm down. Calm down, buddy.
Years old. Are you a licensed attorney right now? Can you legally be hired as an attorney, or is your license still suspended?
My friend, you need to calm down.
We are going to make you climb the monkey bars both ways. Now, for the benefit of anyone who might wonder whether Mrs. Simulator was real, she is. Goldsmith's response in the Discord when someone raised that question: produce the woman. The throngs demanded. He can't produce her. She's fake, so why not claim he murdered her? A former Sullivan and Cromwell attorney in a group chat proposing to accuse me of murdering my girlfriend. I don't know what to add to that. Oh wait, actually I do. Shortly following this, a now deleted image was posted by Maoist Landlord in the Westside Tyler Discord server. A reply to it mentions a Dismantling the Patriarchy award. Following that, someone else asks, "What's this?" To which Maoist responds, "Mrs. Simulator, allegedly." Now, Maoist later claimed that what he had posted was simply a Wojak meme. This is brought into question by the fact that the picture with which Mrs. Simulator was doxxed and threatened with rape by a string of accounts claiming, by full name, to be members of my family, was of her holding a Dismantling the Patriarchy award. Maoist posted her picture in the Westside Tyler Discord. He was the only one who had her name. Reminds me of something Bernie said earlier. Maoist is taking out multiple fascist family members. Another interesting thing about this. At March 15th, 2007, the first account to, at the very beginning, initially doxed my girlfriend, before the ones pretending my family showed up. I initially had assumed that was the accounts Mark Harden and Simps Biden, that it was the same person as those accounts. The reason I assumed this was that that account was created about 30 minutes after Simps Biden got banned, and posted this. After finally finding and tracking down and locating the person behind the accounts Mark Harden 911 and Simps Biden via his kitchen countertop, I was able to determine that he was not actually the same guy as March 15th, 2007. And so I don't really care that much about him. Whatever. He was just being silly online. There was another person who had had 2 accounts banned the day before that post was made. Maoist Landlord's Twitter was suspended the day earlier. His YouTube channel was banned. What, are you going to get this account banned too? Maoist Landlord, aka Noah Gabriel Strickler of Richmond, Virginia, was March 15th, 2007. He was also Samuel Simulator. He was Karen Ziffulator. He was Slow Simulator. He was all of the accounts pretending to be my family to use racial slurs, to dox and threaten to rape my girlfriend and post her employer, try to get my girlfriend fired, and then send those tweets to the employers of my family members to try to get them fired. Oh, also, I just remembered another thing. about how it was pretty weird how Bernie was having extended private one-on-one voice calls with a 15-year-old, wherein he directed them to recruit others into a cell. Brings that Curtainer connection into the light again. And then he explicitly said that he did that, publicly, on record. Here is the audio of him doing that. What the fuck was up with you having multiple, 4-hour-long voice chats with a 15-year-old?
That was like
You couldn't tell? Because your argument was you couldn't tell, but you had, there was the length of the fucking voice chat log in the fucking video you posted.
Show me a screen cap of that, because
I can't say it's a fucking video. You posted it.
Yeah, well, show me a screen cap where there's some kind of notification or sort of record of me chatting with this guy for 4 hours. My recollection is I listened to this guy for about 40 minutes under the pretext that he was a quadriplegic soldier that I had to listen to.
You believe that a quadriplegic soldier sounded like a 15-year-old for 40 minutes?
Well, these guys who sign up to...
It sounds like you just listened to a 14-year-old for 40 minutes on the first time, and then the second time you called them...
he was a quadriplegic, so I was like, this guy's got a limited view of the world because he can't move around, so I might as well just listen to him.
Okay, I mean, listening to your voice, I guess I could see how... maybe your hearing is higher pitched, but...
Because I got a prepubescent voice, yeah, of course.
Yeah. You don't think it's creepy that you're a 43-year-old man with a prepubescent voice that is talking to 15-year-olds on voice chat for hours?
I mean, no, it wasn't for hours. You say it was for 4 hours. It was for about 40 minutes. We can get the logs for that.
The first time. How long was the second one?
Less than that. Substantially less than that.
So we agree that you spent, an hour?
About an hour
a
total.
15-year-old?
He was voice calling me, and I don't know. I posted the entire chat log between us.
Called me that I was talking to. You said
he contacted you because he came from your Discord.
You should find others. You told them you should find other people and recruit them into a cell. Those are your exact words.
No, those aren't. You just made up some extra words for me.
Okay,
I said
what were the exact words?
I said, go start a cell, because he had been talking to me for about...
Okay, so we agree that you told a 15-year-old to go start a cell.
Yeah.
What is your issue? You are a fucking freak, dude. Fuck you, fuck your dead-ass dog. I'm possessing your hip like fucking Liquid Snake, and now I'm going after you and your faggy cult. Goodbye. To close out, Barrett Brown has been investigating these same people for longer than I have. You should read his work. Lucas Connor documented what Goldsmith did to him and was sued into silence for it, in Yolo County, in front of a judge who knows Goldsmith from their shared fraternal organization and was the mentee of the person in the picture. I'm not going to be sued into silence, partly because I've been very careful about the distinction between documented fact and opinion, partly because I genuinely don't really have enough money to make it worth his while, and partly because if he tries, I will consider it confirmation that everything in this video is correct, and I will say so loudly and repeatedly until one of us runs out of breath. Bernard Goldsmith is not a shadowy figure operating beyond accountability. He's just a shadowy figure. And finally, here's my message to Bernie. Every single thing that you have accused me of is something that you actually did. That's smart. This way, I can't countersue without looking like I'm just copying your civil complaints beat for beat. You're expecting this to just go into a, Your Honor, you gotta believe me, you've got it exactly backwards. He's the one that did this stuff to me. And for you to win because you're friends with the judge and you spent months attempting to discredit me by repeatedly lying about me using benzodiazepines. I stopped taking those 8 years ago. And that's something we might have in common. Didn't you have some manic rant that you posted around Christmas time about something you also stopped taking? This plan may well have worked if you had kept your goddamn mouth shut and you hadn't spent the last 6 months bragging to anyone and everyone who would listen in public forums about your devious, diabolical galaxy brain plot to pervert the justice system. Now, I know that you're all still hyped up from successfully suing a pro se defendant. Was that your first trial? First thing you've won? You had a good thing going, Bernie. You really built a community. But you dropped the mask just a bit too early, and your voice cracked, and you choked. and you asked if you could please try that again, but you did it on the big screen in front of everyone. The surprise has been spoiled. A ruined orgasm of a villain reveal. It's the usual suspects if instead of losing the limp, Kevin Spacey just tripped on his own shoelaces and ate shit on the steps outside of the police station. And now this is the only thing anyone will ever remember you for. And they will hate you. Bernard Robert Goldsmith. The Worm Cow. Actual real last thing, though. Bernie, I am going to personally ensure that you can never practice law again. I'm going to get you disbarred for real for moral turpitude. You were giving out legal advice while not licensed to practice law because you didn't pay your license fees. You were a suspended practitioner. Also, the whole, malicious and vexatious litigation thing where you were like, I'm going to vexatiously litigate them. You shouldn't say that on record. The part where you said you were going to frame me for terrorist threats, I don't think that's going to look very good. Shotguns Direct. That's a funny story. There was a Discord server that Bernie got kicked out of, apparently, because he was talking about how he straw purchased 24 shotguns to give out to people at riots. That is called a straw purchase. That is, you're not allowed to do that. You can't just go buy 24 shotguns and bring them with you to riots to give out to the rioters. That's very against the law. And then what else beyond that? Lowtax. When you made Lowtax kill himself, and then you were like, I made Lowtax kill himself. There's no statute of limitations on that. In the state of Missouri, where he did kill himself, that is technically voluntary manslaughter, which is a murder charge. And then finally, the way the RICO Act works is to RICO a group. That's the law. It's to go after like the mob and stuff, gangs, organized crime. If you can prove that certain predicate crimes are met in any two, then they're always real serious crimes or specific crimes. You can RICO everyone in the case. What's a predicate RICO crime is large-scale straw purchasing. And you know what else is? Murder. Fly, be free, Falcons. You know how, you guys have been laughing at the dwindling number of simulator accounts. There's only a couple left, blah, blah, blah. I've been making people take off the profile pictures and take simulator out of their names so that I can have them all put them back on when this video comes out to further crush your heart. Fuck you.